Hello, average engineers. Today I want to talk about something interesting, namely data contracts. Are they dead and were they ever alive? Now, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you live on a rock or not, but a couple of years ago, data contracts were all the rage. They were going to save us from our collective data sins. It was like data contracts are the thing. They were going to fix bad data quality. They're going to fix business problems, communication problems. Data quality was everything. Data contracts were everything, and all of a sudden, a couple years later, and here we sit, and I don't hear anything about data contracts ever. I know they're still running around out there, but nobody's talking about them anymore. I don't hear about anybody using them in the street, on Reddit, on blogs, Substack. Nobody's talking about data contracts, probably because no one's using them besides a few people. But yet they were all the rage, and it's just got me asking, like, what's going on with data contracts? Are they going to be a thing? Are they not? It's been a few years, haven't heard anything. What's going on? Let's be honest. If you can name it, you can find someone who has a financial incentive for something to succeed and will do almost anything to raise a host of acolytes to spread their word across the known data universe. And that was the case a few years ago with data contracts. It just seemed to have gotten quiet recently. I did ask this on LinkedIn. I said, hey, what happened to data contracts? I thought they're going to save us all. I haven't heard anything in a while. Just checking in. Man, it kind of lit up, you know. The most popular comment, which is pretty much sums up this video, is someone said, turns out they are just talking about data contract. Turns out they're just schemas. And I don't know, it's kind of true. I mean, sometimes things are so painfully obvious it hurts. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe data contracts will take over the world. But at some point, we just have to come to the conclusion that, yes, someone is creating a thing, but it's just not catching on for whatever reason. And I feel like that might be happening with data contracts. I just haven't heard about them. You don't hear other people talking about them. People use them in the wild. Yeah, you hear a tidbit here and there, but it just kind of died off, really. I mean, the truth is, I don't have anything particular against data contracts. I mean, on the surface, they seem like a good idea, I guess. But that makes me wonder, if it's a good idea, why after so many years of hearing about data contracts have we just not seen it? Why haven't they made it into the mainstream data engineering? Why aren't people using it? If you want to learn more about data contracts, or, you know, the main company pushing this stuff, go to some place called Gable.ai. That's the company. They're basically, you know, all about data contracts. I'm pretty sure that's what they do. It still looks like they're kind of early on yet, even after all this time. I pulled up a blog of theirs called What is a Data Contract? 3 types of examples. I thought, let's just go over this quick. Maybe we're missing something. They list 3 pillars of data contracts: schemas, semantics, and metadata. We all know what a schema is. We don't need to talk about that, right? Metadata, we know what that is. Semantics is what they call business logic. Now, the interesting thing is we have a lot of tools out there that deal with schema, right? We got things like Iceberg, Delta Lake, even Postgres, right? Usually schema is not a thing that needs to be solved. That's a solved problem. And honestly, for the most part, so is metadata. With master data management, MDM, and just different tools come out of places like Snowflake, Databricks, etc. Honestly, metadata is kind of a sort of solved problem too. People have been working on that. I guess maybe what data contracts adds is the semantics, this business logic, which I guess in a normal data engineering environment just exists in some transformation, some code somewhere. But I guess maybe data contracts, according to them, this is their blog post, this is the company, it's wrapping those 3 together into one piece. It's the 3 different parts, which I can admit they are separate today, right? Schema is separate from metadata is separate from the business logic. And it seems like they're trying to wrap that in a single product and call that a data contract. I don't know. Part of me feels like this might be an uphill battle trying to convince someone with a large data platform that already has schema enforcement with Delta Lake or something, other tools, Snowflake, whatever. They already have data governance with something like Databricks, Snowflake. It includes metadata management, all that stuff. You got to convince them they need to buy and implement yet a third tool that kind of wraps everything together, including the business logic. I don't know. Just people seem to be getting tired of architectural complexity. They ask twice about before doing that, and just asking them to buy another tool and say, hey, this is going to fix all your problems, even though 2 of these problems are already solved. I don't know. It just seems like a hard sell, and I don't know if that has something to do with why data contracts aren't catching on. Honestly, I wanted to look like what a data contract looks like in the wild, so I went and found this example on GitHub, and it was horrific, man. It was just some giant YAML. I'll show some of it on the screen. It's just some, oh man, it's horrible. You can go look at it yourself, but man, I feel like always this YAML-based stuff, it ends up, you know, just not doing very well, for lack of a better term. It's just complicated, and I don't know what you get. You're just adding a bunch of stuff. And the only problem is, as well, I didn't see anything about what tool do you use? When you go Google this stuff, look around with data contracts, this is how you define it here, and YAML, maybe these people use JSON, whatever. Honestly, it looks pretty straightforward, right? If you look at that stuff, it's not rocket science. But then you ask your question, well, what do you use to actually enforce this data contract? Is it some sort of SaaS? Is it some sort of, open source software? Where does it go into the pipeline of data and the platform? Obviously, you're missing a piece here, or I'm missing a piece. Like, there has to be some sort of way to implement the delivery of this data contract, and I'm not sure what that is. It isn't clear, and I don't know if that's what Gable AI is working on. If there's other people working on it, it just seems like it's just an open question, and I'm guessing this unclarity is probably the reason why data contracts aren't catching on. Some of the problems seem to be solved problems. This whole YAML-based thing, is not that popular when it comes to production. And then again, there's this whole open question of, well, what tool do I actually use to implement this data contract, and how's it used? And that's a very, very vague at the moment. And I think that just creates a lack of conversation and a lack of excitement around data contracts. And again, I think life-changing tools, something like DuckDB, Polars, Databricks, Snowflake, they change your life because they're life-changing. They actually do a thing. But when it comes to adding complexity and overhead and more tools, man, you gotta have some payback for people to do that. I did a quick survey because I was curious on my blog about, hey, on this newsletter I did, hey, are people actually using them? Over 60% of the people said no. Another 25% were just going to wait and find out, and only 13% said yes. I think that pretty much answers the question about data contracts. They are not a thing yet, and it's been a couple years. It doesn't seem like they're ever going to be a thing again, maybe on the fringes. That's my best guess. What do you think?